Most news in the morning, secret Clinton campaign memos leaked showing what she didn't want to do to win an election. Plus, John Edwards admits to having an affair. What would have happened if this news had come out earlier, perhaps in the primary season? A lot to talk about, and joining us now, liberal talk radio host Stephanie Miller and conservative radio talk show host Michael Medved. Stephanie, Michael, great to have you with us this morning. Thanks.
Thank you.
So I want to ask you about this, Michael. The former Clinton communications director Howard Wolfson telling ABC News that if this John Edwards affair had come out earlier, perhaps Senator Clinton would be the presumptive Democratic nominee. Do you buy that?
Well, it's a lot of speculation. Look, the truth of the matter is that the reason that the Edwards revelations, I do think, hurt Obama is not just because it brings up the competition again between Clinton and Obama, but because it reinforces the conviction that a lot of Americans have that the news media aren't on the level, that they're biased. Here are rumors that have been circulating and swirling literally for months and months, and only the National Enquirer investigated them. That reinforces the idea that people are playing on the Democratic side, which most people believe anyway, I think happens to be true, and certainly that kind of thing does hurt Obama.
Do you think, Stephanie, there were whispers about this earlier, perhaps in the primary season, perhaps before Iowa, that were ignored?
You know, Kara, I know and love Michael, and I'm tempted to say something completely unsubstantiated about his personal life right now and see if he can disprove it. You know, this is the myth again, Kara, of this, liberal media. It's ridiculous. You can't report something that you don't have evidence on. You know, until Edwards admitted this, there was no hard evidence. It's not something that you would report.
Yeah, I mean, and just in fairness, CNN was investigating this as well, and, there just weren't simply enough facts to go with it. And the other interesting thing is when you pay sources, I mean, do you get different reporting, Michael?
Well, sure you do. But the point about this is that Riley Hunter, the principal involved, had said to a number of people that Edwards was a father of her baby. I mean, look, this whole thing is unseemly, it's unpleasant, but it does relate to Obama in another way. John Edwards is one of those guys with a very, very thin resume. When he ran for president the first time, he'd been in the Senate only one term, never elected to any other office. He made a good speech, looked great on TV. Does that sound like anybody we know? I think it does. And I think that idea of somebody being a charismatic empty suit is one of the vulnerabilities of the Obama campaign as well.
Is that a fair comparison, though, Stephanie?
Of course not. I mean, why is he ahead then? Why is he ahead, Michael? I mean, seriously, it's like, I know you guys keep trying this, that he's an empty suit, but you know what? People like his judgment better than McCain's, I think.
The reason he's ahead is because people hate the Bush administration, and it should be a Democratic year. The big question right now is why is it so close? And I think it's so close because people have confidence in McCain on foreign policy, like the way that he handled his Georgia invasion.
Let me get this straight. Let me get this straight, Michael. So the first credible black candidate in our history who nobody knew a year ago, who is a complete empty suit, who came out of nowhere, is winning. But he's not winning by enough for you.
Well, I do think, and I think you'd probably agree with me, that if Hillary Clinton had been the nominee, she'd probably be winning by more. This should be a Democratic year if you look at the issue set, but now with the Democrats blowing it on this issue of oil drilling, which obviously 80% of Americans believe that we ought to get as much oil as we possibly can.
First of all, you guys, I want to ask you another question.
You and Howard Wilson need to go have a hypothetical conversation, because what he said is just as demonstrably false. Obama went on to win 11 primaries in a row after Edwards dropped out, so it's just
Most of those were caucuses, actually.
All right, well, let's listen, though. Speaking of hypotheticals, there's a really interesting article in Atlantic Monthly about what could have been if things had worked out for Hillary Clinton. Joshua Green published some of the Clinton memos that were leaked, the campaign memos. Attacking Senator Obama for not having American roots was one of the possible strategies. In fact, he writes that this is what Mark Penn wrote. Obama's boyhood in Indonesia and his life in Hawaii exposes a very strong weakness for him. His roots to basic American values and culture are at best limited. And he goes on, this is a strategy she refused to employ, Stephanie. What does it say about what was going on in the campaign and how they were trying to undermine the competition by going this route about being un-American?
Well, it's disgusting, and clearly John McCain's camp has picked up the playbook. His very first ad was John McCain in America, the American president that Americans have been waiting for. They've certainly have taken a page out of this, and I think it's disgusting.
Well, I agree. I think it's also disgusting, and I don't think McCain has been doing that. What McCain has been focusing on is not Barack Obama's roots, but Barack Obama's future and America's future. It's worrisome to the American people when Barack Obama sells 200,000 cheering Germans, "I'm a citizen of the world." We want a president who's a citizen of the United States, who puts America's interests first, last, and always.
Michael, before you leave,
Yeah,
I just want
Michael,
to ask Michael to please elaborate a little bit on what you said earlier. You said that Rielle Hunter was telling people that John Edwards was the father of her child?
Yeah, she was. I mean, again, that's the
According
coverage
to
that according to the National Enquirer, and actually according to a number of people who came forward and said that they had heard from this lady, who after all got $114,000 from the Edwards campaign for making videos for which she had no experience, and traveled around the world to Africa and elsewhere with Edwards. Edwards is irrelevant right now. He's not going to be on the ticket. I think he probably will have a political future after we go through this whole process of forgiveness and what have you. But I do think that Edwards' situation illustrates to people why it's important to look at somebody who isn't completely narcissistic, driven by ego and self-love and self-regard, and that's a weakness for Obama. People do have the sense that this is a guy who's rather deeply in love with himself, and that's not necessarily an attractive feature in a presidential nominee.
Stephanie, I know you don't agree.
Wow.
I know you don't
boy,
agree.
Kara, that's brand new in politics, someone with an ego. Wow.
Well, I want to thank both of you for being with us. Stephanie Miller and Michael Medved, thank you.
Thank you.
31 minutes.